So what's up, guys? This is Ryan Wesson. It's going to be my first episode that I've done. I've actually been looking forward to doing this for quite a while. I listened to quite a few podcasts. I listened to the Joe Rogan Show and The Fighter and the Kid. A lot of MMA podcasts, actually. Joe Rogan, The Fighter and the Kid. The Luke Thomas Show. Listen to the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani. The MMA Odds Cast that's on Google Play. I'm not sure where else it's at. That's how I found it was on Google Play. But yeah, there's quite a few, and I also like to listen to pro wrestling podcasts. I listen to Stone Cold Steve Austin and Chris Jericho, and I listen to JD from New York. That's on YouTube, and I'm just gonna be, really, the main thing I believe I'll be talking about will be MMA, but it's quite possible, I could talk about any other things. I like a few different things. MMA, fan of pro wrestling. I like sports. I like superheroes. I like video games. Just a bunch of odds and end things or whatever I guess I could talk about. But the main thing would probably be MMA. And this is Monday, February 20th. Last night, the 19th, it was the UFC Halifax card. It was headlined by Travis Brown and Derek Lewis, and co-main by John Hendricks and Hector Lombard. I've got to rewatch the card. I only got to see the last two fights. I didn't get to see Carlos Esparza lose, so I don't know, as far as breakdown-wise, what happened in that. I know it was a split decision, 29-28 for the girl that beat her, and then 29-28 for her. I also heard that there was a knee. Carla threw a knee to the chick while she was down, had a knee on the ground. There was some controversy about that. So, I'll have to watch that over. I'll have to watch that to see. I was watching the NBA All-Star game during the early part of the card. I got to see I picked up about halfway through the Gavin Tucker-Sam Cecilia fight. And, man, Gavin Tucker was slick. Oh, man, his stand-up was very slick, very fun to watch, man. I'm trying to remember how he did it. I want to say he was I'm driving down the road right now. As I record this. I'm just bringing this up off the top of my head, but I think the way that he did it, I believe he was in the southpaw stance, and he faked a left kick, stepped in hard to fake the left kick, and got Sam to react to it. And then he stopped on a dime and just bombed him with a right uppercut. It was beautiful, very pretty, high-level stuff. I mean, his striking looked very good. I want to say they were 145-pounders. That was the first time I'd ever seen him fight, so I'm not 100% positive about that. Don't quote me on that, but very entertaining. I want to say they were 145ers, and he had movement very similar to Dillashaw and Cruz and Garbrandt. It was very fun stuff to watch, very good. And then as far as the co-main event goes, man, Johnny Hendricks looked good. The best he's looked in a long time, probably since he lost the belt. Because he picked up a win after he lost the belt against Matt Brown, but people were very disappointed in that fight because everybody was thinking that Johnny would have a good chance of knocking Matt out the way Matt just Matt Brown will come after you. And with the pop that Johnny has in his left hand, man, he freaking flatlined John Finch and Martin Kattman. So people were expecting, Johnny should have went through Matt. At least that's what the thought was, and he just wrestled him and grounded him out and basically did the old what they call lay and pray, which I don't necessarily agree with. It's a sport, and if you're desperate for a win, I look at it as a sport. I do not look at it as if I sit down on a Saturday night and I just watch fist fights. This is a sport. It's a sport of MMA. And, there are multiple ways to win. One of them being if I can take you down and you can't stop it and then you can't get me off of you, hey, tough shit. That's the way I look at it. It might be boring to watch. The crowd might boo and everything else, but hey, it's tough shit. You better learn how to stuff the takedown, and you better learn how to get up off your back, or at least threaten me off your back. Because that happened to Johnny in his last fight against Neil Magny. Johnny did little to nothing in that fight, but he landed two. Actually, I take that back. I think he landed a takedown in every round on Neil. And it was the first round and the third round. Neil caught him in a deep triangle. Both times thought Johnny was going to have to tap. I ended up reading the scorecards, and Neil won while being on his back 85% of the fight. But very little happened in the entire fight. Johnny got takedowns, but did absolutely nothing with him when he got there. He just, took him down and was like, hey, you're either going to get up or I'm just going to stay here on top of you this entire time. There's nothing you can do about it. And, Neil, threw up two triangles or whatnot, and definitely almost had him in the third round. It was very close. I was actually surprised that Johnny got out of it. I was like, well, he's about to have to tap. But, but Johnny looked very good against Hector Lombard here. And just about the entire fight, I'd say 98% of the fight stayed on the feet. I think Hector landed like 2 trips the entire fight, and they might have been on the ground a combined 12 seconds through both trips, the amount of time they were on the ground. It did not stay there very long. The thing that I was probably the most impressed by in the entire fight was Johnny Hendricks' takedown defense. Man, there was on 3 or 4 different occasions, Hector Lombard had a deep single leg and was driving Johnny backwards and could not do anything with it, could not get Johnny off his feet. That's just the fact of the matter. Johnny Hendricks is one of, if not the very best wrestler that Oklahoma State has ever produced, which is like, Oklahoma State in wrestling would be, I guess, like Alabama in college football. If you wrestle at Oklahoma State, you're a beast. And it was so like crazy to see. Him get so deep in on those and fucking asshole, and not be able to get him down. Very, very impressed with Johnny's takedown defense. But I think I might have been so impressed with it, but that's the first time, I guess. I might be forgetting the Kelvin Gastelum fight. I can't remember if Kelvin tried to take him down or not. It's just in recent memory, I can't remember anybody trying to take Johnny down. They were just picking him, chewing him up, standing up, really. Johnny was very slow and drained from the weight cut. He missed weight multiple times and everything. People were just, owning him, really. Wonder Boy did him dirty. Wonder Boy did him very dirty. But other than that, nobody else fully just ran through him. It's just there were guys that him as the former champ, the guy that gave GSP everything he wanted and more, and a lot of people's mind beat GSP. On a scorecard, I actually think I remember watching that fight and at the end of it scoring it for GSP and seeing everybody get mad. And I tried to explain to someone on Facebook that the sport of MMA is no different than, say, the sport of college football or football in general or basketball. The fight came down to the 5th round. It was a very close fight. And there was a minute or so to go in the 5th. And the 5th round was really still anybody's fight. And George landed a takedown on Johnny. Got him down. And pretty much the rest of the round was spent there. And when the fight ended, Johnny was just, for sure positive, 100% positive that he had won the fight. But, going into that last round, it was 2-2. And if you have a toss-up round and a guy scores on you with a takedown in the final minute, and that's where the last minute ends, yeah, man, he won that fight because he won that last final minute. He stole that round from you, and he beat you 3-2. Is that you can't say, oh, well, the takedown at the end didn't count. He didn't want to stand with him anymore. No, that's bullshit. That's straight up bullshit. That'd be like saying, the Patriots and the Falcons were playing in the Super Bowl, and the Patriots had to kick a field goal to go into overtime, correct? No, or they scored a touchdown. Either way, for the sake of the matter, for the sake of the story, we're going to say the Patriots had to kick a field goal to be able to go into overtime. That'd be like them kicking a field goal to go into overtime, and then the ref saying, nah, the Falcons whooped y'all early on just because y'all made a comeback late and kicked that field goal. We're just going to say they won. You're not going to OT, or y'all didn't win the game off the field goal, so on and so forth. It's a sport, and you're scoring points offensively. If I land a kick, you throw one back, I make you miss, I land 2 punches, and then I back out. Guess what? I just won that exchange. I won those points. I mean, I don't understand how some people don't understand that. They're like, no, it's a fucking fist fight, bro. It's a fucking fist fight. Yeah, maybe they are fighting in the cage, but they are competing in the sport of mixed martial arts is what it comes down to. And I just don't understand how people, it just drives me crazy. I have a buddy that I work with who's a big fan. I mean, I don't know if he's as big of a fan as I am, but he watches all the cards. And by the way, just to throw it out there, I started watching MMA in 2008. I want to say I still remember the very first card I ever watched, period, live. Wasn't even a UFC, it was a WEC, and it's when Uriah Faber fought Jens Pulver. And shortly after that, I started seeing the UFC Unleashed that would come on TV, and I fell in love with Matt Hughes. Thought Matt Hughes was great. He still might be my favorite fighter of all time to this day. And then I actually remember the first pay-per-view that I ever ordered was, I want to say, I guess that'd be UFC 89 is when Matt Hughes fought Thiago Alves. And I've ordered every pay-per-view since. I haven't missed a single one. The only one that I missed live that I didn't get to see, off the top of my head, driving down the road, I don't remember what the number was, but it's when Cain Velasquez fought Fabricio Verdum and lost. I ordered the pay-per-view and DVR'd it and watched it the next day. I didn't get to watch it live, but I actually called the finish to that fight. You know, Cain had defended the title twice, which is still to this day, it's amazing to say that's the longest the heavyweight title has ever been defended. And I was talking to my cousin, and he's a huge fan. Me and him watch every single card together, and I was telling him, that I wouldn't be able to watch this one live. I was still going to order it or whatnot, though. But I was picking Fabricio to beat him by submission. I had a feeling in that fight, Fabricio's stand-up is good enough to be a threat to Cain, and Fabricio just wasn't going to let Cain do to him what he did to Junior, as far as like shoving him up against the fence and just beating him up badly is what he did to Junior. But Fabricio wasn't going to let that happen. If he was going to try to shove Fabricio into the cage and do that, Fabricio was just going to try to pull guard with his back up against the cage. That's not an ideal position to be in, but once he gets there, Fabricio can try to work. And then, Cain's the Division I All-American wrestler, and he's on top. But Fabricio Verdum might be the best heavyweight jiu-jitsu artist of all time. Yeah, and as much as some people would say, well, that's Cain's world too, that's Fabricio's world. We know how it turned out. Fabricio ended up guillotining him. I think that was the third round. But, holy shit, I've done got myself sidetracked. I don't even remember what we were talking about. I was talking about Johnny Hendricks and the GSP fight. Oh, the point scoring. So, going all the way back to the point scoring. I don't even know why I was talking about point scoring now. But, you know, Johnny Hendricks and Hector Lombard. Johnny's takedown defense was excellent. His striking looked much better. He was light on his feet. He was moving a little bit. He kept hitting Hector with straight left hands. But then he started mixing it up with just a little bit of some combinations. And he was throwing knees, just straight knees up the middle. He was like almost faking a shot and then bringing a knee up. And he caught Hector with one very good knee, hit him right on the tip of the chin. And it looked like it stunned Hector just a little bit. It didn't wobble him or anything else, but it was a hard shot right to the front of his chin. Johnny, I scored the fight 3-0 for Johnny, and 2 judges scored it 3-0 for Johnny, and 1 scored it 29-28. And it was actually a hilarious phrase said at the end of the fight when they announced the decision. Johnny Hendricks said, "What? Whoa, whoa, 185, motherfuckers." Very impressed with Johnny. You know, he didn't look like a world beater, didn't look like a world champion or anything else like that, but he looked tenfold better than what he's looked in his last recent fights. But the main event, Travis Brown and Derek Lewis, man, you know, it's I really don't know what Travis Brown needs to do. You know, I mean, he didn't do this camp with Edmund Tavernian, or however you say his last name. He went to Black House, trained with them. And one thing I will say about him, though, man, I liked in the first round, he was moving a lot more, and he went back to using his kicks, where his fights, his last couple of fights when he was losing, when he was with Edmund, I don't know, like early in Travis's career, Travis Brown almost moved like a heavyweight version of Dominic Cruz and threw a ton of kicks. I mean, a ton of kicks, which is honestly the best thing for him to do. The dude's 6'7". Man, when he stretches those legs out like that, and especially those front kicks, I mean, he's creating such a long range out, covering so much distance out in front of him that it's so hard for you to close to try to hit him. And I mean, he was fantastic early on. He showed a lot of promise. He looked like he was potentially going to be the heavyweight champ. Knocked out Stefan Struve with one of the prettiest Superman punches you'll ever see. Yeah, I mean, he went on for, you know, he was solid early on, and then he got beat by Bigfoot. I want to, and maybe he had a draw with Chet Congo, and then he lost to Bigfoot. I want to say that's right. I want to say he had a draw with Chet Congo, which he actually lost. Chet Congo had a point deducted for holding on to his shorts. I'm about 95% positive I'm right on that. I want to say I am. But yeah, and then he hurt his leg in the first round of the Bigfoot Silva fight and got stopped. But it wasn't, you know, he got hurt and he was clearly hurt. Like, he pulled up and Bigfoot got him up against the cage, and there was just nothing he could do. He like hurt his hamstring or something like that. Anyway, in this fight, the first round, he went back to doing doing almost similar to his old self. He had a more sprawled out stance, more open, and he was just shooting front kicks to the body right down the middle. And he catches one where it really looked like it was just the tip of his toes, right to the belly of Derek Lewis. And Derek, like, took a step back and, like, started holding his belly with both hands. Like, he was visibly, like, he was hurt, something. He didn't like it. And Travis tried to go after him a little bit, and he backed off because he knew Derek, you know, Derek's a very heavy-handed guy, as we found out again. But he ended up, later on into the first round, Travis caught him with a huge knee to the body, and he crumbled over. And I really thought that was going to be the end of it. I was like, oh, Travis is about to jump on him and pound him just for a second, and it's going to be over. He's back on track. But no, he didn't finish him. And he lets the fight go to the second round. And Derek Lewis walks back into his corner, and he looks like he's in disgust with himself. He's shaking his head. Travis Brown looks to be pretty confident, which he had every right to be. And they come out for the second round, and I don't know, Travis got a little too overconfident or something, and he got a little too close in, and he got caught with a big punch and got put up against the cage. Well, he covered up and did a great job covering up. Derek was bombing on him. I mean, everything that man has. And Derek Lewis has to cut weight to make the limit of 265. He's a gigantic dude. And I actually think Joe Rogan, they did a fight companion last night. It was him, Eddie Bravo, and Ian McCall. And I want to say they said close to the end of the podcast, the fight companion, that Derek Lewis now has 8 knockout wins in his career. That puts him in 3rd place all time in the heavyweight knockouts. And Andrei Arlovski is one above him with 9. I'm not exactly sure who has the most. Andre might have the most with 9, but I want to say on the podcast they said he's tied for the 3rd most, or he is either tied for 3rd or he's in 3rd with 8 knockouts. Which, I mean, dude has this thunder in his hands. But he was bombing on Travis up against the fence. And they go on through the process. He's bombing on him. Somehow Travis gets off the fence and they end up on the ground. Just off the top of my head, I don't remember how. I don't remember if Travis shot a takedown or Derek definitely didn't throw him down. I want to say Travis might have shot like a shitty double leg or something. They end up on the ground. And Derek tries to bomb on him, and Travis is able to work himself back up to his feet. Or no, Derek tries to get up. Travis tries to get up, and he's on his knees, and he like wraps around Derek. Well, Derek shoves him back down again and goes all the way to full mount and tries to pound on him. And it looked really bad at that point. Well, Travis somehow manages... He hip escapes, gets his side up against the cage, and pretty much just stands straight up. It was like Derek didn't try to hold him there whatsoever. So they go on to get to the feet, separate for just a split second. I mean, just a split second. And all of a sudden, Travis decides to re-engage. And he throws, and Derek throws at the same time and pops him. Travis gets caught on the crown of his head. The top of his head is where he gets hit. And he looked like anybody who watches WWE Pro Wrestling or even know what I'm talking about that's out at a car lot. Bailey has the wacky inflatable tube men or whatever, and they have them at the car lots where there's the big guys and they just fling all over the place. That's what Travis looked like going down. I mean, he was just flopping, flailing all over the place. He hits the ground. Derek comes down on top of him and lands I want to say it's the first 2 shots he landed, they were clean. And Travis was out of it. I mean, he was done at that point. There was no need for there to be another punch thrown. It was over. Mario Yamasaki is standing there going, Travis, defend yourself. Defend yourself. Like, what the hell, man? You're supposed to be saving my life right now. Don't be telling me to defend myself. Yeah, just Travis, defend yourself, and Travis was done. And I want to say Derek landed 3 more shots after that and put him to sleep. I mean, put him unconscious. It was a bad knockout. And Derek Lewis gets the win by knockout in the second round after coming back from what really looked like he was going to get finished in the first. I mean, it was a close to being finished. He got hurt twice, and the second one, that knee to the body, was hard. But then Derek Lewis goes on to, I keep wanting to say Derek Brunson for some reason, but Derek Lewis goes on to cut another hilarious post-fight promo. Says that the kick to the body and the knee to the body did not hurt him. It's just the fact that he had to boo-boo is the reason he grabbed his belly. My man said he had to take a shit. then went on to say that he didn't like Travis Brown because Travis Brown hit women. So F him. And, oh yeah, by the way, where Ronda Rousey fine ass at? Which is one of my favorite quotes now of all time. Hey, where Ronda Rousey's fine ass at? Oh, man. But yeah, that was the co-main and the main event. I know I got a little off track. Bellator was Saturday night. I watched it as well. Bummed that Mitrione and Fedor didn't get to compete. Pitbull landed a nasty uppercut on Josh Thompson, became only the second person to ever finish Josh Thompson, which is insane, considering the people that he's fought. Josh Thompson's also the only person to ever finish Nate Diaz, which is also amazing. Josh Koscheck took a bad knockout to a guy that he definitely should not have lost to. At least, well, I mean, you say that, but Josh Koscheck is 39 years old now, and he hasn't won a fight in quite a while, and he's taken quite a few pretty bad knockouts. To be honest, lately Woodley just flatlined him. Chet Congo had his way with Ollie Thompson, I want to say is what the guy's name was. Pretty boring fight. Congo didn't really want to engage on the feet, but he got him to the ground, and Ollie couldn't stop the takedown whatsoever, and he just got him up against the cage, and he pretty much just pounded on him all three rounds. I want to say the scorecards was like a 30-25 and two 30-26s or something like that. There were some 10-8 rounds thrown in there. But yeah, and then one of Fedor's proteges. He had his Bellator debut, and he won by TKO. Yep. I don't think there's a card this coming up week. I might be wrong about that. There might be a Bellator card. I don't think there's a UFC card. And then the weekend after, man, March 4th. You got Tyron Woodley and Wonder Boy 2. Really looking forward to that. I love Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy's awesome. Some of the best stand-up that you will ever see. My actual trainer, I train martial arts here in my hometown where I'm from. I train MMA, and I haven't been doing it very long. Actually, I started in November of this past year. It's just when I started back. I took karate a decent amount of time whenever I was slightly younger, when I was in high school. But yeah, I've been going at, I believe it's November 1st was the day that I started. My trainer, though, Russell Wright, he knows Wonder Boy and his dad personally, and he says they're a great group of people. Their family is just some of the nicest people you'll ever meet, and I can believe it. He comes off that way in his interviews and so forth. But yeah, and then, man, the fight that I'm potentially even looking forward to even more than the main event, you're going to have Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson, which in recent memory, I really don't know off the top of my head a time where two guys were going to fight and it was any clearer that who was the number 1 and number 2 of the division. I mean, it's them two and then everyone else, really. And I know Conor McGregor has the title right now, and I'm not a Conor hater. I actually like Conor. But there's something weird about those three, because I honestly think that Khabib might be the best lightweight in the world. And I personally think that if Khabib and Conor have to go at it, I honestly think that Khabib's going to ragdoll him. I really do. I know people are concerned about, Michael Johnson clipped him with a left and it wobbled him. Michael Johnson hits hard as shit. Look what Michael Johnson just did to Dustin Poirier the fight before Khabib. Flatlined him with a left hand. Khabib ate it and it put him on Queer Street for a second, and then he just absolutely ragdolled Michael Johnson. Same thing, but it's weird because I feel like Khabib matches up with Conor I feel like if they was to go at it, compete, that Khabib gets him. I feel like Khabib would be able to get in. I might be totally wrong on this because every time Conor fights somebody who is supposed to beat him, Eddie Alvarez was technically supposed to beat him, and Conor just, did work on him. I mean, it wasn't even a contest, really. And, but, yeah, I feel like Khabib would get him. And, but I feel like Conor would get Tony. It's very weird. I feel like they have a weird triangle here because I honestly feel like Tony is the worst matchup in the division for Khabib. I'm really worried about that match. I'm pulling for Khabib. I like Khabib. But I feel like Tony is the worst matchup for him in the entire division. But I feel like Khabib is a much more worse matchup for Conor than Tony is. It's weird. They have a weird triangle going there. And then my boy Lando Venata, who's quickly becoming one of my favorite fighters in mixed martial arts. He's only had 2 fights in the UFC, but that fight that he had against Tony Ferguson when he made his debut where nobody knew who he was, I guarantee you I've watched that fight probably 20 plus times on UFC Fight Pass. That first round is possibly my favorite round of fighting that I've seen in the last 10 years. I haven't even been watching it that long. I said 2008 was when I first started, so 9 years, however long it's been. That first round was as fun as any that you'll ever see in that Tony Ferguson and Lando Venata fight. If you haven't seen that, which if anybody decides to listen to this, we're 31 minutes in right now. If anybody decides to listen to this for 31 minutes, I'm sure you've seen Lando and Tony, but God, that's amazing. Love that first round of that fight. Lando's a world beater, man. He looks like he's going to be something special, and the UFC's like taking care of him right now too, man. They, he came back in his second fight, and the guy's name slips me at this exact moment, but Lando landed, which I think he won knockout of the year with the spinning wheel kick, and I cannot recall what the guy's name that he is fighting at 209's name. They're on the main card. But it should be another good fight for Lando to be able to improve on his skills and take another step forward. That kid's something special, man. He really is. I feel like he's going to be very good. And then I think the marquee fight on that card is I think you got Mark Hunt and Alistair Overeem, which is going to be interesting, man. Mark Hunt has the lawsuit against the UFC, so on and so forth. So it's going to be interesting to see how he copes with that. And it's going to be Alistair's first fight back in the octagon since getting KO'd by Stipe. Wow, talk about, he's earning his paychecks, I can say that. You got put unconscious, got your lights turned off by Stipe, and the very first person they throw you back in with is Mark Hunt. I don't know if there's anybody in the heavyweight division, if there's anybody even in the UFC who's had their lights turned off more than Overeem. He has been knocked out several times. From the time he was in K1 back when he was in Pride. You think about the times he's been knocked out in the UFC. Bigfoot knocked him out. Travis Brown knocked him out with front kicks. I mean, man, he's just Ben Rothwell TKO'd him. Oh man, he's had his lights turned off multiple times, and but yeah, I'm sure I will. This right here, I've just been rambling and everything. I just decided to do this on my drive home from work. But I've been thinking about this for a long time. I want to do a podcast. And I don't know if I'll have a name for it or if it'll just be Ryan Talks MMA or just what it is. But I'm going to I'll take notes on the card coming up and I'll do a preview show and then I will do a review afterwards. And I don't know, man. There might not be anybody in the world who listens to this, but I've been talking for 34 minutes and 45 seconds right now, and I've had a great time talking about it, and I'm just talking by myself. So, yep, I think I'm going to try to do a couple more of these and go on about my business. So, I'm going to upload this, and I'm sure you will be seeing some more videos from me here in the very near future. So, all right, guys, y'all have a good one.